Well, this here is the Nissan Magnite, and that's a very strong name for a car which is going to be in a very competitive segment. The compact SUV space is really filled up with a lot of rivals. So this car really has its work cut out. It has to take on the likes of the Maruti Brezza, the Ford Ecosport, the Tata Nexon, the Mahindra XUV300, as well as the Honda WRV, and also the Maruti Suzuki S-Cross, which also roughly sells in the same segment, or the urban compact crossover segment. So that's the segment which is already packed with 7 or 8 very strong rivals. Now this one has taken its own sweet time coming, and I believe that Nissan believes in the old saying that save the best for the last. I reckon that Nissan is saving up its best car for the last, because this car will launch at the end of the year and also be the last car in this segment for some time now. In the compact SUV segment, this will be the last car for at least the next 1.5 years. Now, in terms of the looks, what do you reckon of the looks? I reckon that it looks very smashing on the outside, but of course, so we'll talk about the looks in a bit when we take you on a walk around this car. Let me tell you what engine this car will get. By now, I'm sure that you must have read on the internet this car will get a 1-litre turbocharged petrol, which makes about 100 bhp, and of course, you'll get a manual gearbox as well as a CVT gearbox as part of the options list. Anyways, when is this car going to launch? Around December. This car should hit showrooms near you, or end of November. And of course, this will be one of the last cars out in the market for the calendar year 2020. Now let's quickly take you around and show you the car's exteriors, and then we'll jump inside, show you the interiors, and finally tell you if the Nissan Magnite is really worth the wait. I really like the name, and I think Nissan has got the name spot on with this very stylish looking car. Let's get started. What is Budmo? Well, Budmo, as you might be aware by now, is the online expert in terms of spare parts. If you want a spare part for your vehicle, they have it in their list. They have the most extensive spare parts catalog, right from the most affordable small car to the top of the line luxury car, you name the car, and they have the spare parts for it. And the best point is that they have the spare parts from a host of different component makers and different price segments for the same spare part. So if you want to buy a cheaper part from a different maker or a more expensive part from a different component maker, they have the option for you. And they also promise you 10 days assured return without any hassles. If you don't like the spare part, you can send it back and they'll return all the money to you in the first 10 days. So budmo.com is the name of the website. You can check them out on your iOS as well as Android devices as well. And they really are the experts when it comes to spare parts. Well, we're talking about the looks of this car. The headlamps of this car are very, very sleek looking headlamps, and of course you get projector headlamps, projector LEDs. That's a unique touch, and even the daytime running lamps are in LED, and even the fog lamp is projector LEDs. So that's something which is very unique, because a lot of other manufacturers cut costs and save costs when it comes to the fog lamp. So that's something that Nissan is not doing, and all this LED treatment gives it a very, very positive and a very plush look on the outside. There's a huge grille up front. You can call it hexagonal grille, an octagonal grille. I don't know what it is because I don't know the sides. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 sides, or maybe you can add this and make it 8 sides, but I've never been good in geometry. If you are, let me know what is the exact shape of this grille. But jokes apart, it's a very striking looking design, very different from anything else out there. Again, you get contrasting paint job on the bumper. The lower end of the bumper is in grey, and again a lighter shade of grey to give it a very unique and sporty touch. Now this red shade is very unique to this car because it's very different from anything else out there on the road. Talking about the side profile, it's got a nice shape on the side as well. You've got a little bit of flares over here, a little bit of creases, which gives it a little bit of muscle. And of course you get below it the plastic cladding. It's a squared out wheel arch, which also again gives it a lot of muscle and makes it look very, very cool and very proportionate. You get of course 16-inch alloy wheels across the segment. Across all variants you'll get 16 wheels, and they're clad on 195 section rubber, which is also quite good and gives this car a very balanced out look. There's a Nissan Magnite badge right over here, so in case your neighbors don't know which car this is, they can walk down for their morning walk and check it out, and they'll of course know that this is the Nissan Magnite. Blacked out mirrors and a blacked out roof to give it a contrasting look in terms of the paint scheme. And again, if you closely look at the doors over here, you get this crease over here, which goes all the way to the back door and all the way to a C-pillar, and it's a bit of a rising crease, which again gives it a very unique and muscular look. And again on the side profile you get the contrast of grey with red, which gives it a different look. Now, officially, we don't know yet what the official figures are for the ground clearance, but it is a car which has very good ground clearance. When you see it in perspective, you can make out that this is a good car in terms of the ground clearance. Moving on to the back, you get this nice quarter glass window, and again the waistline is slightly raising, but it should not be a big problem inside, because we'll show you that inside it's never really claustrophobic. Well, so talking about the back end of the car, the back end also is very well proportioned. It's got a lot of styling elements right across. You of course get this huge Magnite badge, and of course it's below the Nissan badge, and the lamps also are nicely muscled up, very sleek looking lamps, and of course they are in two parts. One is integrated with the boot lid, the other one is over here on the sides, and it's protruding out. It's not completely inside or housed inside the car, it's also protruding out, so it looks very unique and very stylish. A CVT badge over here and a turbo badge on the left side, and again the bumper at the back is in two different colors, two different shades of grey, dark grey as well as light grey, to give it a very sculpted and a very muscular look. Overall, just it's a nice and balanced looking car. It's a car which will definitely put a smile on your face as soon as you see it inside a showroom. It really looks very different, very unique from everything else out there, and definitely gives it a very lean and muscular look, and I reckon it's one of the better looking cars in the compact SUV space. Let's jump inside and show you the interiors of the all new Nissan Magnite. So I'm inside now the cabin of the new Nissan Magnite, and well, if you want to check the solidity of any car, that's a good way of checking it, because the sound that the door makes when you shut it off is of course something which gives you great amount of confidence, and it's a solid door. It's not a light kind of build quality on this car, so that's something which is positive. Initial impressions of the car are very good, because the quality is at par with its rivals. It's at par with the Venue and the Sonet, which are really the benchmarks in terms of quality, so this car is very close to the benchmark. In terms of design, the AC vents will remind you of some Lamborghini cars, because they have that hexagonal design element about themselves, and they look very cool and very different, and the ones in the center are much bigger than the ones in the corner, so that's also a unique touch. Talking about unique touches, this car has the biggest glove box. It's a 10-liter glove box, which is the biggest in this segment, and of course you can load it up with a lot of water bottles and stuff like that, but the only negative point is that there's no AC vent inside the glove box, so that's a bit of a miss and something that Nissan should fix. Talking about other misses, there isn't any space in the elbow box. You can't open it up. It's just there to keep your hand in rest. But apart from that, it's a great place to be. As I just said, the quality is good. The overall features list also is quite generous. You get an 8-inch touchscreen. It's a nice one to use. It's easy to operate, and it's got wireless connection for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So it's the first car in this segment which offers you wireless connection for Android Auto as well as Apple's CarPlay. So that's something very unique. It's a good one to use as well. It's easy to navigate through, and of course you get a 360-degree camera, and of course you get 4 cameras on the outside, one in the front, one in the back, and 2 in the mirrors. So you get a bird's eye view, and of course if you're reversing this car, you also get a view of which direction you're reversing. If you cut your steering wheel onto the left, you can see what's happening on the left side, and you know how far your car is, maybe from a boulder or from a rock, and of course it'll keep your car scratch free. Talking about scratch free, the materials are very good, and really the padding on the doors, these upholsteries used for the door pads are of very high grade. Even the fabric on the seats is of very good material and very high grade quality. So yes, these seats are good. The cabin is very plush. And talking about the gauges, it's all digital display. It's not analog, so that's also a very unique touch. It's a 7-inch TFT screen, and you of course get tire pressure monitors, you get distance to empty, you get what the kind of fuel consumption is happening live, and how much you've used over the last few kilometers of driving the car. So all those things are there, and it really is a nice and positive cabin. It's got a positive vibe about itself. The seats also are very good in terms of comfort and cushioning. Support for your lower back is very good, and of course you get these side bolsters which should hold you really well when you push this car into corner. The steering wheel also is nice to grip. Now we haven't driven this car yet, and we are of course going to drive it, but the first impression of the cabin is one of a positive place to be in, and I'll give it a strong score of 8.5 out of 10. In terms of features, well, this car hasn't really been launched at the moment. It's only a first look video, so Nissan isn't telling us what specs will ultimately come in. Will a sunroof finally arrive or not arrive? Those are things which Nissan is leaving out, but they have told us that there will be a techno pack over here which will get wireless charging for a mobile phone and some other stuff as well. Overall, as I just said, a nice place to be in, and 8.5 out of 10. Now let's jump in the back seat and see how good that really is. So I'm now in the back seat of the Nissan Magnite. Now, surprisingly, this car offers you a good amount of space in the back seat. There's plenty of knee room, good amount of headroom as well, and it's a decent car in terms of width. It's not a very wide car, but it's quite decent. So you can have 3 occupants for short trips. For longer trips, though, you'll prefer only to have 2 at the back. The seats, though, are very comfortable. The backrest angle is nice and comfortable. It's not a very upright backrest, so you can sit and relax over here. You also get good support for your under thighs, and the seat cushioning also is very generous. It's not very soft or very firm, so it's got the right amount of mix in terms of the cushioning, and it's a nice place to be overall. You also get a nice fabric on the doors, which give this car a very plush and very upmarket feel. And of course, own AC vents at the back, which is now the standard across this segment, and 12-volt charging point. The floorboard also is relatively flat, so whoever sitting in the middle will not complain about struggling to find leg room. Now, overall, what is the score that I should give the back seat? I reckon that it deserves a good score of 9 out of 10. It's a good and positive place to be in, and definitely has a very positive vibe about itself. Now, let's see how big the boot on the Magnite is, and then figure out if this car really is worth the wait. Well, so talking about the boot of the Nissan Magnite, the boot of this car officially is around 330 litres, which is slightly behind its main rivals. But do remember that this car offers you better space in the middle seats, or the second row rather, than its main rival. So Nissan has really been very good in terms of balancing out the entire cabin. It's not a bad boot, it's a very usable boot, it's well shaped, it's a square and boxy design, and there's no suspension intrusion as well, which means that you can use it up quite nicely. There's a bit of a sill over here, so of course if you are heaving in a big and heavy bag, you will have to use your back into it and put your back into it, but apart from that, it's a nice and usable boot. Overall, I'll give the boot of the Magnite a good score of 8. If I have to give this car a verdict now, after seeing it for the first time, if you're in the market for a compact SUV, I reckon that you should wait for this car to be launched, and of course then take a test drive of this car, because this car really is something which offers you a very positive cabin, a feel-good cabin, and offers you good amount of space as well as a plush interior. It feels very plush and very, very upmarket, and honestly, Nissan hasn't cut any costs inside the cabin of this car, and the first look is very impressive. In terms of the first look, I will give this car a score of 9 out of 10.